We continue our story in Shockwave's laboratory. Project Predacon is underway. And, well, now we kind of have everything coming full circle, just about, right? And Shockwave sees Overlord and Knockout both walking in. And he simply asks them, "What brings you here to my laboratory today, Lord or Emperor Overlord?" To which Overlord simply states, "Well, I came to check on my new army. The Viacons are kind of mundane, and I don't have anything to really spice it up. Plus, I'm thinking of going full scorched earth with this army. Are they ready?" To which Knockout looks at Shockwave, and Shockwave looks at him like, "Oh god, this nigga crazy." But Shockwave's like, "Yes, they are ready, complete even, and are just awaiting the amount of energy to, or pretty much just awaiting your command." And this is where Overlord simply states, "Very good. Now, go ahead and activate my trusty beasts and make sure that they do operate completely, Shockwave." And this is where Shockwave simply gives a nod, walks over to the control panel, and simply presses it. And this is where an entire energy surge happens, where, kind of like in the original, the Predacon army does begin to awaken. And this is where Overlord simply states, "Great, because after this, there will be no more hiding, no more running, no more Autobots." And Overlord himself watches as the Predacons basically surge with this electricity. And Overlord himself is thinking about, we kind of see like a mental image of what he wants. The Autobots burnt beneath his heel, and him as the sole ruler of Cybertron. But back at the Autobot base, Ratchet picks up this energy signature. And in all honesty, I felt like just because it would have just happened anyway, I mean, let's be real here. And so this is where he calls for Tyrannos Prime to come over and simply tells him the situation. Tyrannos, understanding that this is going to be their biggest operation yet. Their, I guess you get the pinnacle of the Autobot cause itself. This is where Tyrannos simply tells everyone, grab every relic you can. Everything possible. Alright? He wants nothing making it out of this here. And so we see the Autobots, the Dinobots, the Wreckers, Wheeljack, Bulkhead, Brawl, Warpath, Arachnid, Soundwave, Dreadwing, RC, Bumblebee, and the Insecticons themselves, all ready for battle. And this is where, obviously, when they go into the field, they met by Viacons, a good amount of them. The Autobots taking cover behind any rocks and stuff like that, utilizing anything they can to ultimately get close. But again, the numbers don't really favor them until Hardshell appears to actually save RC from a Viacon trying to, well, blindside her. And so the Insecticons go on to basically tear through the army. And Arachnid's like, see? They work quite well when under the right command. And this is where, kind of sensing that that still malevolent tone in her, RC and Bumblebee do kind of point their blasters at her, kind of being like, if you have any plans about betraying us, we will execute you right here and now. To which Arachnid's like, "Oh dear, RC. Do I look like Starscream? The moment I get power, I just betray one of the most powerful beings in existence." Talking about your Dinobot Prime, by the way. This Tyrannos, or Grimlock as he's informally called. Absolutely amusing. But no, she will not be betraying them anytime soon here. And this is where Overlord finally comes onto the battlefield. And he actually sees Grimlock. And he's like, wait. You look different. New upgrade? Looks pretty good on you. To which Grimlock simply states he goes by Tyrannos Prime now, the tyrant of battle. And to which Overlord is like, ooh, another Prime, meaning I killed Optimus. Oh, this is going to be so good. Tormenting Dreadwing, killing Optimus, and now ridding the Autobots of their only Prime left, and the Dinobots of their commander and the heaviest hitter during the war. Whoa, this is about to set my track record straight. I'll be unstoppable at this point. To which Tyrannos tells him, give it your best shot. And so, this is where Overlord simply states, oh, I'm gonna do you worse than I did Prime. So he activates the Apex Armor and the Phase Shifter and charges at Tyrannos as Tyrannos charges at him. However, as the two, well, try to clash, Tyrannos misses and then Overlord goes for a punch. However, he ducks underneath and strikes the ground, sending Overlord flying. And this is where he kind of gets a confirmation like, that makes perfect sense now. And this is where he simply tells the others to keep going. He'll deal with Overlord once and for all. And this is where everyone goes, right? Everyone goes into the cave, except for a few. The Insecticons stay behind to handle the Viacons. Bumblebee also stays, keeping a close watch on the battle itself, while Dreadwing and Soundwave, oh, they do something a little bit different. They head to the Decepticon warship, but they are met by Knockout and Breakdown, who are ready for battle. And well, the group actually just begins to fight out their opponents. Soundwave going against a much more, I guess you say, confident Knockout, which again does kind of affect his battling style a bit. Well, doesn't really affect it, but again, it boosts his overall confidence and deadliness in the situation. And so when they do go into the cave, they are blocked off by Deathosaurus. However, this is where Bulkhead, Wheeljack, Brawl, and Warpath step up. And well, this actually gives RC, Arachnid, and the Dinobots a chance to really just keep on going at this point. So yeah, it's kind of just it is what it is at that point. So 4-way jumping with the Wreckers versus Deathosaurus. But let's move on to the battle itself. Grimlock versus Overlord. And remember when I said Grimlock hit the ground and got a good hint to what happens with the Apex Armor and the Phase Shifter? Well, he figured something out. The Phase Shifter still has to allow a user to touch the ground, right? Unless they flat out jump through it. So, Grimlock consistently utilizing his pyrokinesis and his overall greater strength to just simply tear up the terrain, like, repeatedly. Keep in mind, he's still in his robot form with his Cerberus blade, and he's just straight up annoying Overlord here. Keep in mind, Overlord can't transform and has a hard time really closing the distance, as if he does close the distance, Grimlock would just simply keep striking the ground and using that opportunity to try and hit Overlord, to which the Phase Shifter is just bailing him out of it. And again, this keeps happening over and over and over again. So much so that Overlord actually gets frustrated and actually turns the Phase Shifter off so that he can close the distance with Grimlock. However, this is what Grimlock wanted. Overlord's own anger, his own aggression, his own, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you could say his own personality being his own detriment. And when Overlord gets close and throws a punch with the Apex Armor, Tyrannos stops it cold in the palm of his hands. And before Overlord can even get a chance to use his other hand to turn on the Phase Shifter, he feels a powerful blow go through the Apex Armor and right into his chest. And as he's sent flying out of it with enough force, the back of it comes undone and the Apex Armor lies on the ground, shattered into pieces. And Overlord now sees that he was outgunned, outmatched even. However, that's not what terrorizes him. Grimlock transforms into his new beast form, a Hellblade Glavenus, and it's bigger, stronger, more powerful than what he was in his robot form, with the Cerberus blade as its tail, but again, it's got a more curved edge to it by the way it's positioned. And Overlord's smile begins to falter as he's descended upon, not as a fellow predator, no, he's descended upon as prey by an actual apex predator. All the torment, all the fear-mongering he caused to the other Autobots is now coming back at him tenfold. He can't do anything to stop this assault, and he's getting thrashed around like a chew toy. Meanwhile, back with the battle with Deathosaurus, Bulkhead, Wheeljack, and the tank bros over here are actually doing pretty good against Deathosaurus. However, this still does end up kind of in the same situation as with Predaking versus Ultra Magnus and Wheeljack. Only difference is Deathosaurus has a higher battle IQ and is actually a little bit more cognitive in both his robot form and his beast form, meaning that he's able to utilize the environment to his advantage. And this actually does mean that Brawl, Warpath, Bulkhead, and Wheeljack are all on the defensive eventually, unable to really use their vehicle forms because, again, they don't have a clear shot on him. And Wheeljack and Bulkhead are the only ones with real synergy. Now, while Brawl and Warpath know how to work together, know how to hit each other, hit their opponents back and forth, they overwhelmed Deathosaurus before. This is a different situation. The team's not coordinated, the team's not cognitive, and it just simply doesn't help them out, to be honest. So eventually, Deathosaurus does gain the upper hand. He grabs Warpath and throws him so hard into the wall that it creates a crater. Brawl tries to come in with mace, but this is where Deathosaurus snatches it away and uses it against Wheeljack, smacking him away. Then with Bulkhead, he stumps him into the ground. And then with Brawl himself, he transforms and utilizes the tail and momentum of his beast form to whip him into the wall. They've lost. They've got nothing. However, this is where a blast hits Deathosaurus in the face. And then again, and then again, and again, and again, and again. He's getting pushed back by this here. And this is where a voice tells them, so you guys are just gonna get beaten up like this, huh? Just gonna surrender? Just gonna yield like that and just roll over and die? I thought the Autobots were more resilient than that. Especially you, Brawl, considering the fact that Overlord had tortured you personally. Are you gonna let this fake Predacon get the best of you? And this is where everyone can see Tarn basically just walking Deathosaurus down, telling Brawl and Warpath to hurry up. They're gonna do this, and they're gonna do this right. So Tarn transforms, Warpath transforms, and Brawl transforms. And this is where everyone begins to bombard Deathosaurus with their tank forms, right? Just straight up pulverizing him, blasting him back over and over and over again. Just an unrelenting fury. And this is where Wheeljack and Bulkhead also pour on their own firepower, their own ammo. And keep in mind, at this point, Deathosaurus has nothing. His armor, his alloy is being shredded to the point where when the three tanks fire off again, he blows up, killing him off completely. The next one is Arachnid and RC versus Shockwave. Shockwave already has a history with RC, so he can kind of figure her out. But again, Arachnid, nah. She's wilder. She's more unpredictable. And keep in mind, this is as the Dinobots are pretty much fending themselves off against the Predacons, kind of giving them a good distraction, while RC and Arachnid actually work together pretty well. And I mean, I don't see how they wouldn't. They both have been enemies for a long time. So at this point, it's just... it should have been simple, right? It should have been easier for them to actually work together. And so the result of this, I don't think, is pretty much surprising. RC gets another well-placed shot into Shockwave's eye. However, he doesn't get to go for it this time, as Arachnid shoots a webbing with so much precision that it goes into Shockwave's already, I guess you could say, exposed eye. And then she says, got it. And then pulls it out, pulling the entire internal, I guess you could say, spinal structure of Shockwave out. And RC's like, oh my god, that is, oh wow, that's a lot. To which Arachnid says, hey, he's dead, isn't he? To which RC's like, you know what? Fair point, but still, that's a lot. And this is where we then pan over to the Predacons, getting thrashed around and pretty much stabbed up. However, this is where the Dinobots realize that they're going to have to retreat. Now, keep in mind, they're not saying that they can't handle the Predacons, but they're all in their robot form. And the cave or the area that they're in does not allow them to really use their beast forms to their fullest capabilities. It's basically like a crowding space here. And as the Predacons descend upon them, Arachnid and RC meet up with the Dinobots, or at least are able to get to their sides. And this is where Snarl actually begins to blow the cave entrance completely, sealing the Predacons off and, well, just hoping they don't have the intelligence to get out. But this is where they manage to run back to the rest of the group. And they find out the Decepticon warship has been completely blown out of the sky. And this is where Slug is like, wait, okay, how much did we miss? And this is where everyone kind of tells what happened. But there's no one more frustrated in this instance than Tyrannos Prime. To which Wheeljack simply walks over to him. Hey, big boss, you good? What happened? And to which he explains, Overlord just barely, by the skin of his teeth, activated the phase shifter at the last minute and ran through the side of I guess you could say the side of a mountain here. So now Overlord's gotten away. However, he's not in his right state of mind. No. That's completely gone. You see, he's scared, traumatized even. He was prey to a much stronger and much more powerful Cybertronian. And he doesn't know if he'll ever be able to feel the same about this ever again. However, this is where someone pretty much tells him, so, is that it for you? You've been such a good herald of destruction so far. So why don't you come to me and I'll take you under my wing? So Overlord, really not having anything else to do, simply walks over to this location. And it simply states, open it, destroy it, destroy the seal, Overlord, and allow me to become free. So Overlord simply breaks the seal. Using his tank form, he bombards the seal with everything he has until it's completely destroyed. This is where a large energy pool pops out, and Overlord simply looks around. He's like, where are you? And then the figure appears. What? Who are you? You're not Megatron, right? To which the figure simply states, how would you like an edge? I can see into your mind. The beast, definitely unlike anything I've ever encountered before, but wow, you seem pretty terrified of it. What if I told you I can grant you not only the power to beat this beast, but power to ultimately get the army you need? Which Overlord says, yes, I'll do it. What do I have to do? And the figure simply states, very simple. You must submit to me, kneel before me, declare your loyalty to me, and I will grant you everything I have spoken of, and then even more so. So Overlord kneels and states, what do I call you, my master? And this is where the being speaks, ancient, old, but yet still powerful. And he simply states, call me Megatronus Prime, or better as known as the Fallen. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. How is this going to go? How is Overlord going to be impacted by all this? His trauma, now feeling fear for the first time, and he's now willing to desperately do anything to gain power. And how does Megatronus play into all this? Will Tyrannos Prime be able to come out on top? And how will the Autobots engage with him again, now that they're stronger than what they've ever been before? But that's going to be all today, you guys. Please comment down below, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and you guys have a blessed day.